Hi, welcome to Fiber Focus, the podcast brought to you by Sumitomo Electric Lightwave, where we dive into the world of fiber optics and all things connectivity. I am your host, Meredith Neely, and I'm here today joined by Loren Rapp, who is our product line manager for fiber optic cable.
Hey, Meredith. Good to see you.
Thank you for being here today. And we are going to have a conversation following up on the previous episode of Fiber Focus, where we chatted with Josh Sewell, who's our director of product line management, about some of the creative approaches that we have been taking with our customers to help overcome the challenges related to high demand for fiber optic cables and connectivity products. And thank you for being here to follow up on that conversation and give a greater level of detail on some of the things that we talked about. For anybody who didn't listen to that or listen or watch that episode, would you be willing to just kind of recap the state where we are right now in the industry related to demand and supply?
Yeah, sure. This is a common denominator in the industry with AI and machine learning coming on strong. The demand on manufacturers has been tremendous lately. So I know in the last episode, a main topic was supply chain challenges, and this is not uncommon to hear about. Like I said, many manufacturers are experiencing this. And as it relates to supply chain and cable, that's the world I live in and day out, cable and fiber. We're hearing that a lot of customers are just not able to get the cable types that they want. So there are a couple reasons behind that, right? Demand itself is so high. So many projects are coming online all at one time because everyone's in this race to get the first data center to do X, Y, and Z, or the first AI machine learning to do 1, 2, and 3 in certain areas of the world. Everybody wants to be first and the best. So everybody's getting in their projects with different bills of materials involving small form fibers and cables. And the last few years, many of our cables have been optimized to go into these large networks that need lots of fiber in the smallest amount of space. So these fiber cables all contain pliable style of ribbons. And I know that we've heard a lot about pliable ribbons. Sometimes it's called intermittently bonded ribbon or IBR. I'm hearing that term a lot more lately. This type of ribbon, as just a refresher for everyone, it contains 12 fibers, sometimes 16, depending on the cable construction, but most commonly 12 fibers right now. And they're intermittently glued or separated, so that when you separate the 12 fibers of the ribbon, they kind of open up like think of lattice work in your garden or a net when you're fishing. All of the threads are together, or if the lattice, all of the wood pieces are together, but they're separated and you can see through it. But with the ribbon style like this, once you combine it, you can fit a lot of fiber in one space. So as I've said, a few manufacturers out there have transitioned their designs to this style of ribbon to keep those cable profiles much smaller to fit in these very fiber-dense networks that AI needs, machine learning, all of that kind of thing. So with demand being so high, manufacturers are pushing out as much of this IBR-style ribbon as possible. Now, a consideration is for supply chain and longer lead times is, I'm not an engineer, but I can only imagine that the level of precision it takes to make sure all of these fibers are lined up just right to get them together in that bonded nature and still meet attenuation and all that. I'm sure the process is a little bit slower than you would find with a flat ribbon, a traditional flat ribbon, or sometimes we call it standard or conventional. They're just 12 fibers glued together. There are some, technical things you need to do to get that together, but it seems like it would be a lot faster to run those and get it ready to deploy into cable than those intermittently bonded. So I think that some of our customers that are in emergency situations, they might need 500 feet, 1,000 feet to just patch them from point A to point B. They're trying to consider some of maybe the not so optimized cables that have, instead of the pliable ribbon, the flat ribbon. Maybe that's more readily available on the shelf. They're not able to wait months and months, sometimes a year, for the cable that they would traditionally go with for that network. They just need I guess the term could be a creative solution to get from point A to point B. Think outside the box. And even though it's not optimal, you can do that. This is the nature of the beast that we're in right now with demand being so high. You kind of have to consider every option out there. You don't have to go as linear with what was written on the bill of materials, especially if it's an emergency, right? And it's possible because single mode fibers have the same core size, 9-micron core. So no matter if you're looking at a flat ribbon, a pliable ribbon, even different fiber sizes, 200-micron fiber size, 250. The core of that fiber is 9 micron, so it is spliceable. You can connect it to your network. The nuance may be the technique of getting those fibers to line up, but that is definitely an option. Just thinking outside the box to something that is more readily available, because supply chain is so crazy right now, especially with fiber supply, ribbon supply. You kind of have to consider everything. And it's been a little challenging, but we're getting through it.
Right. I mean, it's the challenge of getting not just the fiber count that the customers need, but the loss performance that they need and the speed that they need it, right? Like all of those at a time when there's so much demand on manufacturers to deliver the products to the site within the schedule. All right. So with the creative solution, and I love that word, that's what Josh was using too.
Oh, good.
With the creative solution of offering flat ribbon as an alternative to the pliable ribbon that's, really gaining a lot of traction. What are some of the challenges that somebody might need to overcome in their own mind when it comes to, going with the flat ribbon when they, had pliable ribbon on their bill of materials? Like, is that really an issue? Like, what are some of the things?
One concern to be aware of might be the space of the cable or the outer diameter of the cable. How much space is it taking up in your duct? Most of the duct work is already accounted for with other fibers, other cables. How much space do they have left? Because some of the flat ribbon constructions do have larger cable designs. The cable, when I say that, I mean the outer diameter of the cable is larger at times than the pliable solution. So that's one thing you have to see if that is a thing you can overcome, or if that's even a concern. Maybe you have plenty room in your ducts and that doesn't matter. All that matters is getting the connectivity. So flat ribbon cable would be a great solution because you don't have that space constraint. What we have a lot of concern about when it comes to making these substitutions and being creative is the 250 to 200. There's always that level of nuance and just being scared of something different. And as I mentioned before, there are the different splicing techniques and there's different resources out there we can touch on later. But sometimes looking at a 250 micron or maybe a 200 micron solution when you already have 250 in your network, that can be something that is an option. And that type of cable will typically be much smaller. So it'll definitely fit in your network. But I think that no matter what the issue, if you or the customer talks with, whether it's a sales representative or an applications engineer out in the field, talks about the concerns. We put different brains together, heads together. We can figure out a solution that maybe somebody hasn't thought of. Maybe you need to use a loose tube cable, or maybe there's a tight buffer cable out there that can be more suitable for the application. Maybe it doesn't have to be ribbon at all, and that's okay. There's options out there, and sometimes having just a third party kind of to talk it through can get you the solution you need.
Yeah, I mean, creativity is often supported by collaboration, right? Like putting multiple heads together is better than one.
Mm-hmm.
So going back to the outer diameter of the pliable or IBR?
IBR, yes, that's being thrown around quite a lot lately.
So the outer diameter of IBR for the same fiber count is going to be smaller than a flat ribbon cable. And that you said that the core size is the same. So it's the cladding then around the fiber that's different. So the splicing, how does that work? If you're splicing either pliable ribbon to, like in an emergency situation, to flat ribbon just to get the network up and running, or if it's being connected to legacy infrastructure, like how does that work?
Right. So there are a couple of options. Installer, if they've got a ribbon splicing machine already, there are pitch conversion holders that they can purchase to line up the pitch of the 250 micron fiber size. Of course, as you mentioned, the cladding layer is going to be much thicker than you would find with the 200. So you've got to have different holders to align those 250 micron size fibers up to the 200 micron size fiber. So they're going to fan out just a little bit differently to line up those cores. So those are called pitch conversion holders that can go right into the splicer and hold either fiber size for you. Or if a installer has recently purchased a machine, they might have purchased a 200 micron fiber splicer that can do that as well. So there are different training materials out there, different marketing materials that all go into great detail on how those fiber sizes can align.
Perfect. We'll make a point of linking those resources in the show notes. Thank you for offering them up and
You're
for
welcome.
being with us here today, Loren.
Thanks for having me.
It was nice seeing you. Thank you all for joining us on Fiber Focus. Please subscribe to the series and join us for our next episode coming soon.